Good evening, dear Sangha, and thank you for joining us once again here at the Blue Lotus Meditation and Mindfulness Center here in beautiful Brainerd, Minnesota. Thank you for coming out tonight and sitting with us as we talk about mindfulness and mistakes. We all make them, right? And so we have to learn how to accept that mistakes are going to happen. And so that would be the focus of tonight's Dharma talk. Today is January 22nd, 2024, and it is now 6 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone. Some brief announcements. Our Dharma Institute is open, and so classes are beginning to form now, and classes begin every month for the most part, and there are other classes that you can take asynchronously, and that you can attend them whenever you like. They're at your own pace. So many different options for you to enhance your mindfulness and your Dharma practice. We also just introduced our Young Lotus program. That is for high school and middle school students who are interested in mindfulness and developing the necessary empathy and the compassion that the world is really needing these days. And you can set it up as a club or organization in your school, and it's worldwide. And we would be more than happy to help facilitate and set up those classes and with any necessary administrators or faculty from those locations. So please feel free to reach out to us if that's something that you or your youngster may be interested in starting. Again, our weekly sanghas as well, all throughout the week. Our well-being sangha, a veteran sangha, a teen sangha, new beginning sangha, a rainbow sangha, and just a wonderful welcoming sangha for anyone. Come sit and join and sit with us as well as weekly individual sessions. And there's no charge for any of that. I just want to make that very clear that there's no charge for any of this. Just register. That's all you have to do, and I will be more than happy to sit with you as long as you need, and we'll be more than happy to help with that, as well as our donations. Right, we are completely donation based, and all your donations are U.S. tax deductible, and they help earn merit or classes. Right, if those are something that you may be interested in taking. And so before we begin our Dharma talk, it is always appropriate to begin with the 3 jewels of Buddhism. And so we will begin. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Very nice. And we start off with that homage, paying respect to Lord Buddha for his teachings that help guide us with our mindfulness and our Dharma practice throughout our lives. And we pay respect to his teachings as well, right? The Dharma, as well as the Sangha. And you are the Sangha. We are all the Sangha. And that is how we nurture and grow ourselves as well. So we pay homage to that. And so tonight's topic is mindfulness in mistakes. And before we begin, we will sit and practice our guided meditation on letting go of mistakes. So go ahead and let's begin by taking a moment to settle our bodies into a comfortable position. You can sit in a lotus position or half lotus or in a chair or on your couch. Perhaps even if you're lying down, that's perfectly perfectly acceptable, whatever works best for you. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open with a soft focus looking downward a few feet in front of you. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And you're warmly invited to allow that half smile to rest on your face as well. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. Soften your belly as you to continue settling in. And let's meditate on letting go of mistakes. Even with the most diligent preparation, mistakes will happen. There are simply too many variables that present themselves. Some we may account for, others not so much. We may add or subtract incorrectly from our bank accounts. We may forget about a dentist appointment. Or perhaps we simply overcook our favorite meal. None of these oversights or mistakes were done on purpose. And regardless of outcome, it suits us best to offer ourselves forgiveness and to move forward with life with openness and acceptance. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. Others make mistakes as well. Perhaps another driver inadvertently cuts you off on the road. Maybe your child left food in their backpack over the weekend, and it now has an unpleasant odor. Maybe your best friend forgets your birthday or anniversary. Although we may be sad or upset in any of these situations, it's important to remember that many people, like yourself, have very busy lives and are not deliberately trying to hurt you. You were one of life's unforeseen variables to them. Regardless of the situation, it suits us best to offer them forgiveness and to move forward with life with openness and acceptance. Breathe in, pause, and breathe out. Go ahead and begin to open your eyes slowly and to reorientate yourself to your surroundings before you move around. Sometimes our legs can get tired after we do a meditation for a while, and they can get a little numb and wobbly. I'm trying to stand. I don't know if anybody's ever done any sailing or been on a boat long term. You may feel a little queasy and unsteady in your walk. I call them sea legs, right? If you've ever been there, you got to get your sea legs before you can walk on a boat in the weathering. So, or in the waves. And so sometimes our legs can feel a little bit numb if we sat there. So mistakes in mindfulness. Right? It's important to consider. So often we judge ourselves very harshly and unduly, very harshly when we make a mistake, no matter how simple it is. Right? Sometimes if it's probably a little bit more of a complicated situation, we may be a little bit more forgiving, right? But oftentimes it's the little mistakes that we really take to heart. And maybe we beat ourselves up and talk badly about ourselves to ourselves and perhaps even to others. And so it's important to realize that how we speak and how we think about ourselves does truly affect our landscape of our mind, our mindsets. So it's important that when we do make mistakes, that we simply acknowledge it, because we've all made mistakes. We will continue to make mistakes. I make mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. And it's okay. It's okay for you to make mistakes. It's okay for your neighbor to make mistakes. It's okay for a family member to make a mistake. It's okay for the complete stranger to make a mistake. There are so many variables in life that we just cannot prepare for all of them. And even if we do have some of those variables in mind, it still may not come out to fruition, no matter how well prepared we are. So it's okay to make those mistakes, severe or not. Severe or not, it's okay. And so oftentimes when we do make a mistake and perhaps we beat ourselves up, maybe we or someone else, right, mentally, right, we may hold that against them. We may hold that mistake against us. And guess what that falls under? If you were to align that grudge, that remembering all the time and holding against someone else, that would be an attachment. And attachments, right? Just like in the second noble truth, attachments lead to suffering. Suffering for us because we have to remember and we are going to hold that grudge. Suffering for the other because they are perhaps going to feel badly about themselves as well. And maybe that could significantly impact, their relationship with you, or even developing new relationships with someone else because of a grudge, because of an attachment. So it's important we can acknowledge the mistake. We can certainly kindly, without using harsh words, let them know that how that mistake may have affected us, or perhaps how it even may impact them. But we don't live there. We don't dwell on that mistake. It's important to remember. You may have heard, let bygones be bygones. We cannot change the past. We can only be in the moment with awareness. And that awareness also may help how we interact with someone else in the future and how we may interact with ourselves. And so when someone makes a mistake or we make a mistake, we often refer to that forgiveness as grace. Okay? As grace. But what is grace? Right? What is grace? Oftentimes we may even say grace before a meal. Right? Giving thanks. In this usage of the word grace, it is simply unconditional forgiveness. And that's so important because when we forgive, we are living the second noble truth. Right? We are letting go of attachment, letting go of that suffering. If that mistake caused someone harm, or perhaps you harm, we certainly don't have to keep putting ourselves in a position where we would be harmed. But allowing grace to manifest allows us to move on, to ease our own suffering and the suffering of others. So it's unconditional forgiveness. The bodhicitta heart, right? Or the Dharma heart, I like to call it. And so how is grace beneficial? Well, it lets others, or if it's a mistake that we made ourselves, know it's okay. Again, we're all going to make mistakes. And those mistakes can certainly have, again, a different amount of impact on our mindsets. Some of them may be smaller, some of them may be not so much. But that unconditional forgiveness, that non-attachment, letting it go, releases that baggage. Imagine or recall a time, maybe you were traveling in the airport and you had all of your luggage with you. No matter how much we try, right? We want to keep that baggage to a minimum because we know we have to carry it. And once we get to the ticketing agent, right, we are much relieved that that hard suitcase or suitcases are going underneath that airplane and the stowage area. We don't see it again. But recall that time when you had to carry it, right, from your home to your car, from the parking lot of the airport to the ticketing agent. It's hard. And that's what holding on to a grudge is. Holding on to the past is carrying all that extra baggage. Does not allow us to move and see clearly what's in front of us. So it's important to offer grace. Compassion as well. So what is compassion? We often hear compassion and empathy, and they're two slightly different terms. Empathy deals with emotion, and so does compassion. Empathy deals with emotion. I can understand how you're feeling. I can identify with the suffering that you are experiencing. Compassion, on the other hand, right? The co prefix means with. So with passion, I'm sharing that suffering with you. But it also implies an action. An action. So whereas empathy is just, I can identify with how you are feeling. I can feel badly for you. Compassion elicits that as well, but it also implies that there is an action to go along with that emotion. Sometimes that action is just a statement, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm coming right over to give you a ride to work because you forgot to put gas in the car or whatever the situation is. Compassion for others, again, is an action or acting with care. This is an act of compassion, what the Buddha did, giving us the Dharma. Right? We will never meet him, right, in that sense. But his action was to walk around and to teach, to help others. That was his action. Our parents, right, they act beneficially towards us in those times of distress, compassionately. They're there to support you, perhaps, or grandparents too, or dear friends, maybe even coworkers or colleagues, or perhaps even a stranger on the street. I see you carrying that luggage from your car to the airport. Let me get that door for you. That's an act of compassion. It doesn't have to be something grandiose. Offering someone well wishes. That too is an action. And those go very, very far as well. And then the actions for ourselves, actions of compassion for ourselves. It's important to realize that the compassion that we can demonstrate towards another, we can demonstrate and act upon it towards ourselves when we make a mistake. And that's simply of not letting that attachment to a bad or hurtful feeling stay or remain. Maybe it's, if you're balancing your checkbook, maybe the action could be, let me just double check my numbers once again to make sure I carried the 2 or whatever the number it is when you're adding. There are many ways to show that compassion, giving yourself that necessary space for us to heal and to nurture ourselves. So compassion is very important. Again, we're all going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. It's not ever going to not happen. And again, some of those mistakes perhaps could be more impactful than another. Maybe not taking into account someone else's feelings before some type of action. Maybe you acted abruptly. So simply acknowledging is a good way to start, because everybody has feelings. And very often the compassion when a mistake happens, even then, it's just acknowledging it. Hey, I'm really sorry. I made that mistake. It's not to say we won't do it again, but we are more mindful of our actions in those situations. So it's important to not live in those mistakes. Don't dwell there. That is, when we dwell there and hold those regrets or that unforgiveness towards someone else, that is living in an attachment. And that, again, is a cause of suffering. The Buddha teaches us that, again. So we let it go. We don't forget. We don't have to forget. But we don't hold it forever. Remember, grace, unconditional forgiveness. And when we offer grace to ourselves and to others, and compassion for ourselves and others, and forgiveness for ourselves and others, empathy for ourselves and others, we begin to walk the way of the bodhicitta, and we nurture our Dharma hearts when we do so. So, let us know what you think in the comments below. I always read the comments, and we always reply to those comments. So you're absolutely warmly invited to reach out to us with any comments that you think on tonight's topic for this one or any others. Absolutely. Our next talk is on February 5th. Same time at 6 p.m. It's always every other Monday. And we will close out tonight's Dharma transmission, again, with the 3 jewels. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Thank you for coming, and and many blessings to you and your wonderful families. Till next time.